Did you know you can make a lot of money working for the US government overseas?
Your specialized skills can open doors to high-demand GovTech roles abroad, offering financial perks and a chance to gain a very diverse experience. Let's explore how you can leverage these opportunities and thrive in an international setting.
The first thing, let's put it out there, is the tax incentives. Because when you are a U.S. Citizen, in general, by the way, you are being paid or you are making U.S. income, or any income for that matter, you are taxed differently. Basically, it's called the
Foreign earned income exclusion.
exclusion. So the first $120,000 you make is taxed at 0%. So if you have a job where you're making $130,000, you only get taxed on $10,000, which is a lot of savings. If you are a family, meaning a couple, if you're filing joint, it doubles. So your first $240,000 of the household is taxed at 0%, which is a big saving.
Yep.
And what happens when you get a job overseas is that most likely you get housing included, and you get all types of, and you usually, not always, but you usually in a base. So
yeah, but before we move away from the tax benefit, let's mention that it's not something you can trick or fake. You need to demonstrate that you spend 330 days out of the country in a 12-month period.
Yeah, but also you are gonna be in that foreign country anyway, so it's not a problem, especially when you're working for the federal government. It's pretty evident.
Yeah.
But and about the taxes also, there are, besides the foreign earned income exclusions, there are what they call housing stipends and stuff like that. So they give you
an
additional allocation for housing, for
meals, like
for training, for not training, for schooling for your kids and stuff. So the exclusion you get is more like almost $300,000 of not paying tax on. So it's super interesting. So most people who actually end up getting a job overseas, they find themselves with a lot of money to potentially save for a few reasons. First, you're not being taxed on most of the money. You don't have much to do because you usually end up
rent is paid
in a place where most other people don't want to go, because when you go into those foreign contracts, it's not in the middle of the nicest city, and Rome, Italy, that you go usually. You go in the boondocks. So there's no place to spend the money you're making. That's the second thing. And you get stipend to even travel back to your country. So
a few times a year.
So there are many occasions to save, which is super cool.
Yeah, especially if you don't have dependents, if you're young and starting.
Exactly. It's the best place to start to be able to save that kind of money. And another type of incentive you get is hazard pay. Depending on where you get that job, if the area is deemed to be dangerous, you get a hazard pay premium on top of this. If you are single, you don't have any responsibility, it's probably a thing to consider. But there are also valuable additional incentives. You end up interacting with different cultures, learning new language. You get to travel. And I know some friends, not only they get to travel back to their country on the government dime, but every 3 weeks or 4 weeks, they get a stipend to go visit.
Somewhere around there, like especially if they have to live in a compound that's very, very remote.
Exactly.
They want to give you a break because they know you can't just grab a car and go out of the compound to a supermarket or a mall.
Yeah, and typically these jobs, especially the one with hazard pay, not everyone wants to do them. So they tend to, some of them have a less competition.
Child-free me would have done it.
Well, me too. If you do this for 2-3 years and you're making all that money, you're not being taxed, you're not paying for housing, you're not paying for food.
You promise your mom you'll be back, right?
And you don't have anything, you don't have a mall to go to buy new shoes. You imagine the amount of savings you can make? And some people, they take this seriously. They even take the money they should be going back home regularly with. They save that money. And they come back home with hundreds of thousands of dollars saved. Now, what do they do with it when they come back? It's a whole other question. But it's a good way to actually start your career and start saving.
Yeah. And let's talk about what kind of opportunities exist there in the tech space. Like what type of jobs?
All type of jobs, because don't forget, you usually end up in a base that needs all type of
IT.
IT support, tech support. Everything you would be doing in the US, you still need.
You can be working with servers. You can be working with radars.
You can be with radars. Anything that has to do with security in general.
Yeah, and sometimes we've been talking about the more remote cases where you live in a compound, but also like even the foreign services like embassies, consulates, they need IT support and they bring U.S. citizens to do that work. And these are jobs that exist anywhere where you would find an embassy or a consulate. So they're a bit more glamorous because they're usually in capitals, right?
Not necessarily glamorous, because it depends on the country they send you. Despite working for an embassy, you still need hazard pay.
Yeah.
If they send you to Rome or to somewhere nice in Europe, you don't get hazard pay. But in some countries in the Middle East, for example,
and normally once you make it into the foreign service, you can easily move from one place to the other if there's a vacant. So that's another benefit. Like you may not start in Rome, but you could get there.
And not only that, those jobs tend to come with security clearance.
Yes.
Which is something that's always valuable if you are considering GovTech, because this security clearance, you can start there and transition to a job back in the US with that same security clearance.
Yeah.
You see?
Yep.
So it has many, many advantages.
And then it's more than just consulates and embassies. Think about like USAID. So that's the organization in the government that helps other governments do things like in agriculture and development in general. These are big offices that are part of the U.S. government, a little piece of the U.S. government that's abroad. The Peace Corps, all these institutions are also funded by the U.S. government and have technology and need support.
Yeah. So basically, if you're trying to get into GovTech and you want to travel the world and you are ready for something different, for something exciting, overseas jobs is something for you to consider. And make sure, while you're at it, make sure you find a job that gives you a security clearance.